Hi everybody, Adam Steele here, and today we are checking out the new FX Collection 3 from Arturia. This video is brought to you in collaboration with our friends at Produce Like a Pro. There is a giveaway going on their website right now. The link is in the description down below, so don't hesitate, check that out. So as you can hear, I went in a bit of a different direction with this one. Usually I'm kind of a rock metal kind of guy. I did use a guitar and a bass, but every plugin that I used here, except for I think one, was all Arturia. The synths, and then how to get those synths to sit in place and make the bass sound like something really spacey. Get the guitar to sound like something awesome as well. No virtual amps, a lot of saturation from some of the FX Collection, a lot of delays and reverbs. Let's check them out from the other side. Okay, so the Arturia FX Collection. I've loved Arturia stuff for quite a long time. Their synths are awesome. I decided to kind of do something a little simpler with the synth side of things today and use Analog Lab for the synths. So that we don't get into the weeds on particular synths from the V Collection, because the Analog Lab is like the greatest hits. Today we're focusing on the effects. So, this bass, listen to this kick and bass. This is one synth. This is mad. But the problem with that, a lot of you probably don't even hear the low end on that. I've put ozone here to see if we can get an EQ reading. It's not doing anything, but watch this. I can see loads around that 40 Hz region and it really drops off. As soon as we turn on pre-76, watch the difference. See all these massive spikes way higher up? 150 Hz, 200 Hz. All those extra harmonics, that's distortion coming from the Telefunken 76 valve preamp. Arturia's version of it. I've put 30 dB of gain on it. That's loads. And there's a little bit of a low boost here and a tiny bit of a high cut, but like they're small. But the main thing is the drive here is the right balance of valve style harmonics that it brings out a lot of the kind of what I call upper bass. And that really kind of sits that in a mix on small speakers. I can test that on something like I've got these Yamaha style NS10s from Studio Spares. If I turn off V76, that bass line just disappears, it's gone. And all I'm hearing is a click, click, click. Turn it on, and suddenly it's there. Makes a massive difference. The hi-hats were, they were a particular synth. What was it? Oh, it's an emulator. And this is the Trap Heaven kit. And I'm just using the hi-hats, and I'm using two semitones to go tick 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 tick. But it just needed a little something without the pano, which is from a different company, and on its own it sounds like this. No, I'll just move ozone over because that's not helping. There we go. So if I put the panner on, which isn't an Arturia thing, it's a Soundtoys thing, but it does the thing. It's still a little annoying. So what I did is I turned on a V76 with a little bit of distortion here. A little bit of high and low. Without it's a little bit too present, and with it just softens the top off in a way that I think fits it in. Because if I turn that off, that's annoying. Turn that on, it's still there, and it's still giving me that kind of but it's not just in the super highs and hurting me. Because that's the thing that annoys me about trap hi-hats, is not the frequency, but the piercingness. If I can soften that off a little bit, it does the job. And then I've got this clap snare, which is another Analog Lab, which is the good old Fairchild. That's got a bit of distortion here, 50 dB of preamp gain. Without it, it's a little too in your face, so it softens it off again. So it's in there, but it's not crisp, because I don't want crisp, I want soft. But that is going through a spring reverb that's very heavily driven, and is then blended so that it's more drive than actual reverb. And it's also going through the EMT plate, which is on a send. Without those two reverbs, it's pretty flat. And without the drive, there we go. Now the bass, as it's called, it doesn't actually have any low end. It's a bass guitar. It's the Schecter that I've been playing, but it's all no amps, no external analog hardware, DI straight in, and somehow it sounds like this. So I've got the pre-73 driving pretty hard to make it less normal. Let's just turn everything off and start there. So the pre-73. So that's shelving the low end out and driving pretty hard. That's going to an 1176, which is taking some of the away. So that's taming those big spikes. And then we've got the eternity delay, which is set to this broken tape player thing, which gives it that bit crushy type thing. So that sounds really weird. And then intensity is a reverb that I love, that just, it can be triggered so that the more level you give it, the more it will change its characteristics, like the size. So if I turn that up, there we go. Now, if we get a big note on the reverb, that should size. There we go. So the intensity there now, the harder that hits, the bigger a reverb we get. Very cool. But in the mix, it's a little too muddy. So I've got the Trident preamp that I've set 500 hertz and 150 hertz, scooping quite a lot out. High pass, lots of low pass, boosting the highs. And driving the input gain as well. It does come out lower down level wise than it did before, but that's intentional. That sits it in the mix, because now with the drum, and then some of those big notes are still a bit weird, so the stay level compressor here just keeps that in line. And then we've got a guitar that's doing a twinkly kind of thing. And that's a very similar setup to the bass. That's got a preamp doing the drive thing and the low cut, a 76 keeping it in line. Then we've got the Brigade, which is like an Electro Harmonics memory man. There we go. So that's also going into a heavily driven plate. And that's going into a tape machine, which is mostly being used for its drive. And last but not least, that's going into a Trident to also clear out the top end and the low end and all that kind of stuff and keep it in its place in the mix. So we get this. If I turn off everything apart from maybe a little bit of preamp, you'll see how this suddenly becomes very boring. And then turn it all back on. And so there you go. The Arturia FX Collection. There's a lot more in the new version 3. This is just what was already there originally. But yeah, there's more to add on to that, which I'll be hopefully talking about very soon. And there you go. Back to me for the giveaway for Produce Like a Pro. So there you go. I hope you enjoyed that little exploration into the Arturia stuff. They are great people who make some really interesting stuff. I first used their stuff a long time ago, like over a decade ago, when they were the only guys really doing really accurate versions of vintage synths. And they've really gone from strength to strength. And so there they are with the new V Collection 9 and the FX Collection 3. Check those guys out. Their website is also in the description below, as well as the giveaway on Produce Like a Pro. Their website is there as well. So thanks to our Patreon supporters. You guys really help us to do all this kind of stuff, and thanks to the guys at Produce Like a Pro. Stick around for some of the Mix Engineer Reacts videos and the podcast and the guitar and tech news and other videos like this, tutorials, production stuff. Thank you everybody, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.